Oh, I believe we are now live.
I've been alive for a long time, but I appreciate the reassurance.
Yeah, it's always good to be reassured.
Yeah.
So maybe we can wait to get into the real discussion. I don't know if you can hear my toddler crying upstairs right now.
That is so sweet. We haven't chatted in so long.
Yeah, I have two children now.
Oh, just one moment. I'm going to grab my headphones.
All right.
I don't mind. What's the saying? Like, if you can't hear crying, then it's dying or something?
Oh, I haven't heard the saying, but yeah, I mean that's probably true, especially of babies. But I mean, you not at all times. I think it's probably not good if your baby never stops crying. But I don't know.
I
Maybe
know what
I'm
the issue
dying because
was.
I
I found the issue. This is so funny. Okay, so I had made the mistake of opening up the stream in a different tab.
ah
So I was just listening to this live stream like 5 seconds delayed, and I'm frantically trying to figure out what's wrong with my audio setup. Actually, there is still something wrong with my audio setup. I can't hear any audio.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Okay, now we're
All
good to
right.
go. I am so sorry for that.
That's all good. It gave
Never mind.
people a little bit of time to
Okay,
hop on.
this is going to be complicated, isn't it? My
It's going to be
headphones
extreme.
are not working. This is really silly. Give me
Is there's still a
10
problem going on?
seconds at the most. Let me try this.
One moment,
This
folks.
is a good thing that nobody's joined yet. There we
Hey,
go.
we have 5 viewers.
How about now? How about now? We good?
We are good.
Fantastic.
At least I can hear
Okay.
you.
Oh my word. Oh my goodness. Okay. I was gonna say 2026. We've had like what 30 years of audio-visual computing in the home to figure this out.
Yeah, and you still can't figure it out. That's pretty embarrassing. And you
Yeah.
you just did it in front of 5 viewers. That's
5 years,
extremely
man.
embarrassing.
Oh my word. Anyway, I'm ready to get started if you're ready.
All right, let us begin. So Heku, a commenter, said he's never seen Cinnamon before.
Oh,
But
well,
he
how come?
checked out the channel and said it looks cool. So you have his approval.
Well, thank you.
But since he's just being introduced to you, how about you introduce us to yourself? Who is Cinnamon?
Well, I shouldn't have to do this. If you don't know who I am, that's actually that's a personality flaw. I'm
True,
sorry, it's
true.
fatal. You're actually gonna die. Anyway, so howdy. My name is Ethan. I go by Cinnamon online. I do a lot of different things. I'm trying to think where to start. So what's funny is, so I do a lot of different things in a lot of different circles, and so I'm like a very, very, very micro celebrity in all of those individual circles, and many of them don't know about the other ones. So every once in a while, something will pop up. But I was best known for a long time as a Game Boy Advance homebrew developer. If you've ever been interested in Game Boy Advance homebrew, my videos usually come up to the top of the YouTube, algorithm. I do some tutorials and stuff. I've made, I believe, 5 Game Boy Advance games, and there are 2 that I've actually been commissioned to make for other people. But I also do lots of other stuff. Like right now, I've got a web comic that's actually doing really weirdly well on Instagram.
Oh, interesting.
I'm getting like 300 new followers every day. I'm kind of worried, actually. I don't know. I think
Because
I accidentally hit like algorithm gold or something.
so what worries you, like that they'll dig up a tweet from 2012 or something?
Oh well, they can't do that. I just deleted my Twitter account.
Oh, there we go. Well, I mean, they can probably find it somehow. Is the data out there somewhere?
Well, I mean, once something's uploaded to the internet, it's there forever. So
Maybe I have like a screenshot of something controversial you've posted. and I'll just get ahead of it so that
Yeah,
because it's
let's
kind
not
of
talk
like,
about my controversial past. Let's instead talk about my controversial future.
all right, that sounds good. Um, so how do you, I guess, do you have any kind of coherent vision of what sentiment is,
Oh
or is it
man, that's a great question.
because it, you do a lot of different stuff. You've got like you made an animated show, and then
Oh yeah, I have a TV
yeah,
show, by the way.
yeah, the at least one commenter has heard of it. He said Evan7391 said, "Whoa, I know that guy. That's the Florida Lee dude."
Oh yeah, no, I know that guy too. What's up? Yeah, no, I don't know if there's necessarily a consistent vision, so to speak. But I've always enjoyed pushing myself. And I really encourage a lot of people to. It's very easy to want to atrophy the older you get. I know a lot of adults who have, especially people who've hit their middle ages, and they kind of wake up one morning and realize they spent the last 10 years doing the exact same thing. And it's
Mm,
more tempting than ever, and this will be a conversation for the end of the video, because of AI, to want to atrophy your cognitive abilities. I've seen more and more people wanting to sort of, instead of developing a skill themselves, sort of offload that to other places. And it's fine to use tools to say magnify your potential, but it's very important to do things that are uncomfortable. Very
mm.
important to do things that are uncomfortable and push yourself. Um, so that's my thing. I'm not very good at this. I feel like I'm lazy, but I've done so many like different things just because I'm trying to keep myself on my toes.
So would you say it's more of a less of like you've got this one vision that involves many things, and it's more like whatever piques your interest and satisfies the creative itch at any moment.
Exactly. I don't necessarily have a coherent master goal. I tend to see my projects as like 6 month to 1 year side tangents, so to speak.
Hmm.
And maybe someday I'll get to something that's really big and substantial, that I'll feel is my magnum opus or whatever. But I still feel like I'm in the process of like making pencil sketches before you work on like a big painting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I kind of feel the same way. Like I'm very very passionate about. I guess like if I were to put a general goal, it would be uh, just making more culture with more depth,
Mm.
um, whether it's related to like theology and philosophy or art of various kinds. But it is, yeah, just kind of trying out different things. And general, like, it's mostly I get just like a mental picture of something, or like the spark of an idea, and I just get obsessed with it until eventually I can't handle it not existing anymore.
Oh man, it feels for me that feeling. I almost usually like to describe it as like there's like an insect or something under my skin that's like trying to burrow its way out.
Hmm.
Like it's gonna get out. Like it's going to emerge at some point. But it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like how I choose what to like. That's pretty much how I choose what to work on next. Is like it's not as much a choice. It's more like this thing is just I really need to finally get this bug out.
Oh yeah. No, it's the same for me. I don't feel there's a little bit of an analysis paralysis in 2026 when it comes to art as a concept, because I don't believe we've ever had so many forms of art available to us at any
Hmm.
given moment, almost in history. Now that I can think about it, and not even just because of technology, but because of our incredible supply chain. I wanted to pick up
Mhm.
sewing. I could drive to Hobby Lobby right now and pick up a sewing machine and come back.
Right.
That kind of stuff, right? And
Yeah,
so,
and you don't have to like have that information passed down personally. You have
right.
at any time you want, you can just Google it or ask ChatGPT or whatever for like a step-by-step guide on how to do anything that comes to mind at any moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And the problem though with a lot of this freedom is it is a blessing, but it's also a little bit of a hindrance because it's almost like going to the ice cream store and your favorite flavors in there, so you're just stuck with like 50 flavors and you're not sure what to go with. Like a big issue for me is video games have always seemed sort of like the most natural accumulation of a lot of my interests. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I love programming, and I program as like that's my day job, right? I'm a full-time programmer. And I've done lots of different types of coding that lend themselves well to video game development, like lots of embedded development, things like that. I do art, I do music, I do all this other fun stuff. So you think, well, that's the neat little package. The problem is I haven't enjoyed playing a video game in like 10 years, like any of them. I don't enjoy any of them. And part of that's a personal issue. I just don't know how to relax.
Yeah.
But part of that's also because, frankly enough, I feel like the fun to dollar ratio isn't amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but that's I almost give you like a blind spot. I almost feel like Beethoven, where he's like trying to write music but he can't hear. Um, I've made all these games, but admittedly, they're not the most fun. They might be technically impressive or have good art or music or whatever, but like they're not very fun.
Mm.
Which is I mean, that's damning when it comes to video games. That's half the Nate. Game is
Yeah.
half the Nate. So I don't know. So I've been trying to branch out and find other things, and it's kind of left me at a little bit of a analysis problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess one commenter says I stopped paying money for video forever ago.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, I mean, there's no dollar to fun ratio uh, with emulating games.
that is true. I'm just gonna play Yoshi's Island for the 50th time in a row.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, I'm so old. I feel so old. Solitaire is like one of my favorite games. I just discovered Free Cell. Where has it been all my life? I'm so boring.
Yeah, I do find myself most of the time uh like I have to be in like the right mood usually after I've done a bunch of work on something.
Oh yeah,
Um and just like can't get myself to work on it anymore that I
yeah.
finally am like, all right, I'll play a video game and then I enjoy it. But a lot of the time it's kind of like I'd rather work on making one than play one.
Oh yeah. No, for me, I'm sort of blessed to live in an area where I can have a trampoline outside of my mobile home. So for me, unironically, I'll do some work and then I'll go out and trampoline for like 30 minutes and then come back. 26-year-old man over here, I'm trampolining. It's great.
Sounds like a wonderful life.
Oh yeah.
So the main topic that I wanted to talk about is the value of art and
Mm,
you know or other creative mediums such as video games, which it's debated whether it's properly categorized as art, but
mm.
uh, and we could talk about that as well. But we're both Christians. You're Orthodox, and that I'm a Protestant. Um, but generally within Christianity, I think there is less of an emphasis, um, and especially I think in the Protestant tradition, there has been kind of like an overreaction against like certain abuses of uh, involved in icon veneration in the medieval era. Um, and I think that has kind of led to like an largely anti-visual tradition in the West, um, and which is largely not shared in the East. But generally, when people are talking about like fighting for what truly matters, it's generally about truth or goodness. But the three transcendentals are truth, goodness, and beauty. Um,
Mm.
so what do you think? And I think you probably have uh, kind of a richer tradition to draw from uh, as Orthodox. Um, what do you think within the Christian tradition is the value of art?
You might like this actually. This might go in a direction you don't expect it to, but I really do think you'll think this is interesting. This is pulling from a rant I went on earlier today. It made me. It was really fun. Anyway, so I think G.K. Chesterton talks about this a while ago. What is it? Do you remember the quote where he says that the entirety of society exists so that little girls can have pretty hair? Have you seen that? That
I
that
have I've
quote?
read I have read that quote. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that so much.
Hmm.
Because I think it reflects a deeper sentiment. Um, what was it? Paul Scalise. He's on Twitter. I think he writes articles sometimes. Ashamedly, I actually pay and read a lot of them. But he made a really interesting point, that culture is ultimately defined by whoever is the most intolerant. In that, like, I'll give you an example. You have a bunch of coworkers, and one of them is vegan. Now, the vegan guy is only going to want to eat at places that have vegan food, right?
Hmm.
So all the other coworkers don't mind necessarily. So because of this, whenever they all go out to eat together, they are only going to go to places that have vegan food. That's an example of one member of a party, no matter how big the party is, being exceptionally intolerant and it reflecting the culture of the group.
Hmm.
Or not reflecting, but like impacting the culture of the group.
Hmm.
Basically, like culture is defined by two things. One of them being um, basically who is the most intolerant, and then accommodating that guy. But
Right.
there is something true at play here, where if you leave something alone, it will be claimed by whoever values it the most. I think, what is it? There's a song, Cielito Lindo. It's a Mexican song from the 19th century, I believe. It has this one stanza that translated to English states that if a bird leaves its nest behind and then returns to find the nest has been taken by another, then that bird never deserved the nest in the first place.
Hmm.
And I think a lot about that. Um, Basically, whoever, if you don't feel like the details are important, then they won't be yours.
Yeah.
Someone else will take them. And
Hmm.
that's why it's so important for the Christian life, the Christian walk, to be completely all consuming, right? Like,
Right.
you need to brush every tooth. What if I don't want to brush every teeth? Well, what teeth are you okay with losing?
Hmm.
Like anything that isn't in Christ will be consumed by fire.
Hmm.
And I think that there's a great, one of the big tragedies of the West is that you see, let's just say there's the great evils and then sort of the passive evils, where the great evils who have a lot of money and power will go out of their way to throw money. They'll throw resources. They'll throw everything they've got at creating culture that debases truth and beauty. They will lose money. I mean, how much money do you think Mixtape lost?
Oh, probably a ton.
Oh, a ton, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that
Hmm.
they're losing money, right? That's not a priority for them. However, on the other side of the aisle, even if I'm trying to think. I don't have any billionaires. There are no billionaires on quote my side, but I was going to say, like, all the people with any money, influence, the capacity to sort of do these things by nature of being very frugal, which is a good thing. They don't believe that funding, or they don't believe that supporting art is important. If something
Hmm.
doesn't return money like within that quarter, then therefore it must not be valuable, which means that you tend, like, a lot of people tend to associate um, more conservative things with being kitschy, right? Because it
Hmm.
has to have a confirmed audience. It has to make so much money within the first quarter or it gets canceled, right? There are no patrons. There is no, I'm just going to throw money and attention and whatever at this for the sake of it existing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because I mean, there's like a million areas in your life. I heard someone, I forgot who said it one time, that little sins can be worse than big sins sometimes, because the big sins you're aware of, those are the ones you turn around from. The little ones start to add up, and you're completely made unaware of them, and then they start wrecking your life.
Right.
So I think beauty in a lot of ways is people associate beauty with not intrinsic, but like having a lot of detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like beautiful paintings tend to have a lot of detail, a lot of thought, a lot of care put into them, because that is wasted time, quote unquote,
Yeah.
right? Somebody took the time out of his day when he could be doing more important things to put extra details on the water hose, or like the beautiful water towers from back in the day with lots of details and flourishes and swashes and things like that. That doesn't have a practical application. That is, I think, the core of beauty, is loving something so much that you're willing to gush. You're willing to give it things it doesn't necessarily need. You lavish, right, on things, and that makes it beautiful.
Yeah.
It shows that you love something.
Well, it's essentially the same logic as a sacrifice.
Yes, exactly.
A sacrifice
Exactly
is
the same logic.
something you let go of, and kind of in the symbolism of a burnt sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
You're burning something of value and translating it into an image of the immaterial. So
Right.
it turns into smoke and then rises. And so it's an image of higher things beyond the physical world. And so with art, you're sacrificing your time and resources for something of greater value, of that's qualitatively more valuable rather than quantitatively.
Exactly. 100%. The Lord doesn't want any sheep from your flock. He wants the best sheep from your flock. And then you get no practical benefit from it immediately, right? It goes up. It goes into smoke. It's gone.
Right. Yeah, and there's a I don't know, are you familiar with Rene Guénon?
Yes.
So yeah, he's got a book, The Reign of Quantity.
Mm.
And he essentially diagnoses the transition from the ancient world to the present day as a movement from kind of like a quantitative civilization to or a qualitative civilization to a quantitative. So the way that we think and value things has gone from valuing quality most to now essentially we evaluate everything simply in terms of quantity.
Right.
And so with
idea.
investing in art, we can only think in terms of, well, does this have an audience? Why would I put money into something if money's not going to come out of it?
Right.
It's a waste. And essentially it is a waste in purely material terms. But if you're thinking in terms of what has value qualitatively, a work of art has immensely more. It has value of a higher kind that can't be quantified.
Right.
That far exceeds that of material wealth.
I think that one of the biggest problems with the domestication of the internet, so to speak, is that people have learned to, even if they're not producing anything, right? If they're not producing any art or if they don't have a business or anything, they sort of treat themselves like a brand, in the sense that everybody views themselves through this extremely interesting lens. Like, someone pointed this out to me, and it's true. Like, you reconnect with anybody that you were friends with in elementary school who had interesting ideas and, like, was excited to see people and blah, 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 blah. You reconnect with them as adults, and oftentimes their worldview the kind of conversations they want to talk about are exclusively influenced by what social circle do they want to maintain their standing in. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I just got into this social circle. I need to make sure that my beliefs and my attitude and my preferences align with this social circle so that I can remain accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And the same goes for the internet, right? Which is very disappointing. It almost is a dehumanization effort. It makes people feel less like individuals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that a big part of that is that community isn't a given in our
Right.
society. Really, you kind of expect that you're eventually going to move away, not just out of your parents' house, but out of probably your parents' town, or even
Yeah.
out of the state or even country. And that the friends you have in elementary school, they'll only be your friends. Yeah, at the latest, maybe they'll go through middle school or high school with you. But most of them, if not all of them, you'll have, mostly forgotten about by the time probably you're in college.
Right.
So there's really no continuity of community that stays with you longer than 5 to 10 years. Family, though they probably in many people's cases stick with you, um, the the relationship changes, and there's no there's our society is largely actively trying to break down any bonds that remain. But we largely, especially people who go off to college and are fed new values from their leftist professors,
Hmm.
uh, they no longer, they come back no longer having any kind of connection of values with their family. And so I think people seek more than is healthy, more than they're naturally meant to, in friendships and in careers. Um, so I think that's kind of part of what's behind it. There's no, for most of history, everybody in your town was pretty much all of the people you knew, at least for the majority of people.
Hmm.
And you just naturally would all have similar values. If you had different values with somebody, it would be a kind of internal disagreement. It would be like the the Guelphs and Ghibellines, a very
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
intramural debate, not completely different worldviews. So I think that, like, because that was the situation for most of history, this is a very new thing that we're not really designed uh, to be dealing with. This kind of like, we need to discover our own beliefs about the world. So we go off into a new context where people believe entirely different, contrary things to what we grew up with, and then we examine each one and are expected to kind of form our own conclusions about everything.
Right.
Um, and then who do we belong to after that point? And so
This
I
is
think that's,
probably the weirdest time in history.
yeah, it is pretty strange.
Psychologically speaking, it's definitely the weirdest. Materially, we're doing great, but when it like psychologically, we are in. All I gotta say is there are like fairy tales and stuff from hundreds of years ago, with magic items that would make people go crazy. That we are exceeding the craziness of. I mean, if I were to describe anything about modernity to someone hundreds of years ago, I could just imagine what they would look like. But it is weird that the internet, in a lot of ways, is the only stability people tend to have. Like we're effectively nomadic, except nomadic people had more continuity.
Hmm.
Because we move all over the place. So the internet is the only place I know people will remain in one spot. If I want to go
Hmm.
talk to somebody I haven't seen in a long time, I go to their Facebook, right? I have a long Discord contact list. I can reach out. Um, I mean, how did I meet you?
Yeah, it was on
It's a
Discord.
weird time. It's a weird time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, you've got pretty much have to go on the internet to find somebody with the niche beliefs you have about particular things.
It's
Uh,
really weird. I've seen the statistics. Actually, my own personal life, I have lots of married friends, and I've been keeping tabs on how they met each other. Just sort of like I'm putting them into age brackets, right? So like Gen X has a lot of interesting stories. Like I know this one guy, a Gen X guy, who met his wife at a karaoke bar. I know, like I've heard
what was
plenty
he?
of
Is he
bars. I've heard
Filipino or
plenty of
something?
different stuff. There are three places people a couple years older than me and younger have met their spouse at. Like only three: high school, college, and the internet.
Yep.
I know like 20 couples, and it is one of those three.
Hmm. Yeah, I met my wife in high school.
Yep, high
So
school, college, or the internet. And among the internet, I know at least one Discord couple. Actually, and they live in the area, and they're a cute couple. So like, but they met on Discord, so you know.
hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty much like the clock is ticking once you're like about to graduate college. It's like, all right, you got to meet somebody or else it's on to the dating apps.
Oh
Or,
man, the dating apps suck.
yeah.
They just royally suck.
Yeah, and I don't envy but anybody who doesn't meet their significant other prior to the internet being their only option.
Oh man.
But I mean, I do know a number of people who are single and have graduated college, and it really is a difficult thing to find somebody, because it's like, where do I even look? And then they try dating apps, and they meet weird people, have
Yeah.
repeatedly have poor experiences that are related to the fact that they don't have any kind of mutual friends, or they're just going in cold based off of a surface level conversation and reading each other's profiles. So it's definitely, it's kind of like torture.
Oh yeah. I'm actually going to loop this back around to the beauty discussion. It's what was it? There are just a million and one little things that we take for granted that bolster the societal fabric, right?
Hmm.
Like, first thing people think of when they're looking for a relationship is the advice they get is like, "Oh, just join a club." Okay, what clubs? And you look around and you're noticing that there just aren't any clubs, right? Like sometimes you'll find a group with like a couple of seniors in it, and you're like, okay, whatever.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll just start my own club. Well, how are you going to meet people and to invite them to your club? Nobody wants to talk to anybody anymore.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's fun because like I've done experiments in this. I've actually had like old fashioned house parties at my house. I think the most in attendance was like 21, 22 people. And fitting that many people in a house that's the size of like, it's a single wide, is fun. It's an adventure. Um, and it works pretty well. But at the same time, it's just slow. The friction is really, really, really high because the social
Hmm.
capital is so social fabric is like tears in it.
Hmm.
And how do you build a strong social fabric? Well, one of the ways you do that is by investing in culture. In order to have a
Hmm.
strong fabric, you have to make investments that don't return cash right away. You have to do things that might lose you some money. And I don't see a material difference between the cultural obsession with GDP and sacrificing your child to ball. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Um, Realistically speaking, they were giving up their children, and they're giving up their descendants for immediate physical gain, which is a huge theme of the entire financial world right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what the boomer generation did. Though I mean, they also kind of uh, just borrowed money from future generations to have more wealth in their own lifetime. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it was kind of just like saving their way of life was just like, the American dream is you save enough money to retire. And then, once your kids are out of the house, you're done. And now you can enjoy your wealth. You finally receive the thing that you've been working for your whole life, which is just to have have a couple decades to, Lord willing, to go on vacations and see your grandkids once a year or something.
Yeah, if you have grandkids.
Right. I mean, they assumed, just because,
Just because. Yeah.
I had kids, so of course my kids will have kids. And I'm sure sending them to people who hate my way of life, to be educated every day, I'm sure
Yeah.
that won't change anything.
It's just society is so, like, people take it for granted. They really do. But it's so fragile. It really is. And it's made up of millions of people who make small decisions every single day. And the more small, selfish things you seemingly get away with, they really add up. Like all these little things don't seem like a big deal in isolation. But when you have entire multiple generations constantly messing with each other this way, right? Constantly being like, I'm just going to get me and mine. It ruins everything. The details, I feel like that's going to be the thesis of this video. The details matter. The little
Hmm.
things matter. They add up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another thing that's kind of, as I was thinking through it, um, like I was at a point where, um, probably like soon after I graduated high school, where I was kind of trying to justify my interests,
Mm-hmm.
and coming from like a Protestant, kind of biblicist, like everything has to be found in the Bible, like explicitly, uh, it was a good exercise, even though kind of coming from, from wrong principles. But
Oh, bless.
I was, kind of trying to find, a justification. Like, I have a strong, concern about the state of the world, and so I have an interest in politics. But so many people tell me, the kingdom of heaven is not of this world, so we shouldn't be concerned with earthly things like politics. And then, I was in a kind of like dispensationalist environment as well, where it's like
Mm.
the world has to become, we have to see man-made horrors beyond our comprehension, in order for Christ to return. Um, and so, there was no explanation. So that was one thing, was like reading the Bible, looking for, is there actually value to what goes on in this world, and to politics. Um, and But along with that, there was, my interest in art, and kind of reading through the Bible, like what is there any foundation for valuing art and beauty. And one thing that definitely, a connection I made was like, oh, like the glory of the Lord is the center of, the Old Testament church.
Mm-hmm.
um, the glory of the Lord is a central theme throughout the Bible. um, and it's repeated, um, just over and over, that the Lord is glorious. um, and Glory, essentially, you could translate it as beauty. um, the and you see that in the construction of the tabernacle. It's not just like, it's not just the most efficient thing possible. The
Right.
Lord could have just instituted, like, here's a stone table, sacrifice on that. But he actually condemned just, a kind of like undeveloped, kind of primitive altar. They couldn't,
Mm.
they're eventually exiled for sacrificing just out in the wilderness. Instead, it's this ornate, very costly thing that they constructed the tabernacle when they had nothing. It was prior to receiving even land. They're just wandering in the wilderness. And the Lord commands them construct this immensely expensive tabernacle. So that's where you meet the Lord, in this image of his heavenly throne room, and that's also kind of a microcosm of the earth. So the center of their worship, and really the thing they kind of revolved their lives around as a whole society, was something that's very concerned with beauty. And so kind of what that indicates is, that beauty is it's higher than what we do in our day-to-day lives to survive. And so as I thought about these things, kind of finding biblical precedent for it, I eventually found that theologians and philosophers had already said these things a lot better than I had thought them, and that really it's kind of just something that we've lost. I think we're a lot of again, especially in theological traditions that have developed alongside secularization in the West. We've kind of developed our theology and way of thinking about religion in general, in terms of like having to defend it against hostile secular arguments. And so I think a lot of it is there's a constant attack on goodness and truth, and so we're constantly thinking about those fronts, and have pretty much entirely lost the importance of beauty. But in reality, it's those are the three transcendentals, right up, right alongside goodness and truth is beauty, and so we ought to, it's something we ought to pursue, even beyond just our survival.
Do you know what the Hebrew word kavod means? I had to Google this to make sure I was saying it correctly.
Yeah,
so
it's literally
translated as glory oftentimes. I don't know what the Greek word is. I wish I did. But it also, for the audience who might not know, it also means weight. And what's interesting is the analogy I've heard for describing the word glory, as it's usually referred to in scripture as. So imagine that like you have a friend or whatever, like you're in college, you have a friend and he's messy, like he's got a guitar, he's got wrappers all over the floor, he's got posters on the walls, things like that. Those are his kavod, in the sense that is the impact he has made on that room. When you walk in, you can tell this person has been here. Here are his artifacts, right? And so one of the reasons I think minimalism really it frustrates the Lord, because for one, it's bad for us. We are designed to be maximally imaging Christ. But also because it tells the Lord, you need to, I don't think you're more valuable than like a square inch somewhere in my life. No, he wants everything. And I think that's one of the things that you see in the Levitical law. You see throughout the scripture, he's like, no, I'm going to tell you what the days of the year are. I'm going to tell you what you're going to wear. I'm going to tell you what you're going to eat. I'm going to tell you, he gives them these things, not because he's sort of arbitrarily trying to, I don't know, it isn't arbitrary, right? Your eternal state in some way is correlated to how often you think about God, in the sense that you're designed to pray unceasingly. And what does it mean to pray unceasingly? Well, one of the ways in which that it is every single part of your life must be Christian, and not what I necessarily mean like a Christian label, but it rather must be done in a worshipful way. There is not a single part of your life that can't be done, that cannot be a living sacrifice to Christ. Because if any part of your life isn't, then it's going to be gone, because Christ himself is life and light. So
Yeah.
that's how it is. And oh my word, no, these things matter when you're setting it. When they were setting up the temple, when they were setting up, um, simply because the Lord enjoys us. What's the word I'm looking for? I'll say living within Him, but like He wants to be on our forefront. We are designed to have the Lord on the forefront of our minds at all times, and every gift that is given to us is an instrument by which we can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And beauty, as defined by basically glorifying the Lord with the details, right? Everything in your life ought to be beautiful. Everything, the way
Mm-hmm.
you speak, the interactions you have with other people, but even things like your hobbies, the tasks you do around your house, the work you do in the office, right? Every single one of these things ought to be beautiful. You
Mm-hmm.
ought to be glowing, right? Like
Yeah.
you ought to have light coming off of you, and that's the only way we can have a beautiful society, is when it's made up of beautiful people. How does one become beautiful? By conforming to Christ.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, even if you think about the fact that we're made in the image of God,
Right.
it's, that's obviously uh, analogical language where the God doesn't have a form, but
Well,
it's
Christ
still,
is the image of God.
yeah. I mean,
So is the
in
fullness of the
terms of
Father.
in
So
terms of his divine nature, does not have a form,
okay, yeah.
and so, uh, but the fact that visual language is used to describe our relationship to God,
Mhm.
it's not insignificant. Um, and
Well, you're
so,
aware of the concept of theosis, right?
yes, hmm
Sweet. I think it was actually St. Augustine who first wrote extensively about. He didn't use the word, but he had a lot of really good analogies. Like if you're the fire poker analogy, right?
yeah,
For the audience who might not know, this will be very brief. The idea is that we are sort of like an iron fire poker that's made of steel, while the Lord's divine essence is sort of like a flame. And even though those things are very, very different, when you take a poker and you put it into the fire, it sort of picks up the attributes of the fire. So it glows, it's yellow, it's hot. And that's sort of, we're made out of dust, right? We are made out of dirt and dust, and yet we're designed um, such that when people look at us, they see through us and they see Christ. And that's in every interaction. So somebody's helping someone who's in need. The person who is in need, all help comes from the Lord, without exception, comes from the Lord. And so when someone is helping someone who's in need and you're the one in need, the person helping you is acting on behalf of Christ. He's acting as Christ. And when you are the one helping, then you are fulfilling the commandment that Christ gave to his disciples when he said, "Did you feed me when I was hungry? Did you give me water when I was thirsty?" Right? So you have this interaction where on both sides you're seeing Christ.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
that is that's the purpose of life.
and I think, kind of, going off of that, the our ultimate destiny as well of humanity is glorification. We die with Christ, participate in his death, so that we might also participate in his glory. And so again, there's this, while glory isn't, entirely synonymous with beauty, beauty is an aspect of glory. And so the fact that we're made as image and are to grow in likeness, and ultimately shine with the glory of Christ.
Right.
It demonstrates that there's something of God's glory that's imaged in the beauty that we make, and really we participate even in his creative act, by analogy, when we create. That's why Tolkien describes it as sub-creation. It's a participation in God's creation of the whole world when we create our own miniature worlds.
Right.
And there's like as his images, there's something objectively much more valuable than just surviving, just increasing numbers on a spreadsheet. So yeah, I think another aspect in I think the early chapters of Genesis, they really do provide a lot of the kind of biblical evidence for if there's somebody like me that needs to have the chapter and verse for the value of beauty. But there's also if you think about the fact that God created for 6 days and then rested on the seventh and sanctified it. The fact that he worked toward rest, I think, shows kind of what is subservient to what. Do we work to rest, or do we rest to gain energy to work? In the case of creation, the Lord he does the work of creation, working toward rest. And then if you think about with sacrifice as well, generally what's sacrificed is the fruit of their labors. And even the Eucharist is the product of long labor. So
You're gonna love this.
There's a big process, a long process of somebody's gotta grow the wheat, and somebody's gotta cut it down, and then somebody's gotta grind it, and then bake it into bread, and then with the wine, there's an even longer process of fermentation. All of that is human labor, and the kind of like the telos of that labor, the end that it's all working toward, is ultimately it being offered up as a sacrifice to the Lord, being translated into something spiritual and not merely material.
Oh man, you stole the words right out of my mouth. I was going to get to that. No, it's beautiful because this was pointed out to me a while ago, and I really love this point that was made. The Lord gives us the materials that we use, that our labor goes into, as part of the Eucharist. But so the Lord gives this to us, and then we give this to the Lord in consecration, and then the Lord gives us back the Eucharist, which we then consume, and then as a result of that, we then give our lives back. So there's this constant back and forth where we're taking the things that the other is giving and putting them together and then returning them. There's like this constant exchange, and the very first, and that is to be contrasted with consumption, in which something is given and then it is buried in the ground, or is given to us and we eat it and it's for our own good and we don't do anything else with it. And the very first, that is not a coincidence, I believe, that the first sin was related to consumption. And then an apple was consumed, or not an apple necessarily, a fruit was consumed in defiance to God for the sake of gaining something God was not going to give them, right?
Yeah.
And you see this analogy all over the place, right? Because creation is really hard, but consumption is not. Consumption is easy. It's really easy to sit on your butt all day and get fat. And it's getting back to retirement we were talking about a while ago. I don't have plans to retire necessarily. My grandfather doesn't plan to retire. And part of this is because everyone that he knows that has retired passed away within like a year or two of retiring. Because the problem is not, of course, not rest, but the problem is that once you sort of don't have a thing to keep you moving forward, once you no longer have something to like pull you along, you sort of die, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, the that kind of gets into what, a proper definition of rest. Uh, Leisure is kind of the formal philosophical term for the kind of rest that we see in Genesis, and that's described on the Sabbath. And that's distinct from like being passive.
yeah,
It's not the lack of anything. It's particularly what's interesting is in Greek, um, generally we think of rest as the lack of work, but in Greek, the word for work is essentially like uh, non leisure.
mm, like
Um,
recreation, right?
yeah, yeah. So um, they kind of have it. The kind of ancient way of thinking is kind of in reverse. They're not thinking about efficiency all the time. Um, Work is something that serves rest, and rest the uh, is the activity of the gods. Uh, in Greek mythology, the gods are at rest on Mount Olympus, and and in the Bible, the Lord is at eternal rest, um, and we enter into His rest
Right.
when we've completed our labors on this earth. Um, so it's something higher. Um, it's it's not boring, in the sense of just sitting around and doing nothing.
Right.
And it's generally uh, associated with contemplation and kind of doing higher things or engaging in higher things, not just a lack of engagement with anything.
There is a because the concept of Sabbath, right, stands in opposition to the concept of death pretty starkly, because the scriptures are incredibly anti-death, right? Death is the
Mhm.
enemy. Death was defeated upon Christ's resurrection. Sin and death are not, I'm going to say, like, they're not the end of the Christian walk, right? Some would even go so far to say that Christians don't die. We repose. We may be separated from a body, but as we are in the presence of Christ, Christ Himself is life. So it's not what some might understand as death. With that said, it is easy to mistake our contemporary definition of rest for death. Let's talk to my brother about this. I swear, I don't want to go on a tirade at the Backrooms movie. By the way, I love the Backrooms movie. Everybody should see it. It's fantastic. There are way more Christian themes in that film than you might think. But the concept of Sabbath. So the Lord stopped creating after 6 days and rested. That doesn't mean He wasn't act. That doesn't mean He's inactive. I mean, the majority of what we associate with the Lord in terms of His actions came well after creation. However, He was done with creation. Creation was completed. And I think the same thing about the eternal Sabbath, right? The eternal seventh day, um, upon Christ's return. It's not that the like people sort of there is sort of a misconception I see sometimes in people where they see heaven as sort of this disembodied like eternal pleasure sort of thing. I think it's a Hollywood concept, which
Mhm.
we have feelings about that, but but no, it's not. It's the opposite of that. It is the things of this world may pass away, but it's good that they do because the higher calling is ahead of us, right? We are
Mhm.
entering in a rest that is creative, but not in the same way as where we are right now,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and yeah, that's the difficult thing about like imagining the kind of post resurrection state, um, is that especially for it's kind of spiritually discerned, heavenly
Right.
realities, um, and not only if you just haven't uh, experienced or you haven't met the Lord, um, you haven't received any supernatural knowledge of any kind. But also, if you're immature in your faith, if you're not disciplined in prayer, and uh, seeking the sight of the Lord, um, you kind of can't. You don't even have anything to draw from to imagine what life would be like. Because ultimately,
Yeah.
just descriptions of the Lord and descriptions of spiritual things, uh, we only have in our language words that describe physical realities, and
Right.
we apply them analogously to uh, non-physical realities. And so that can very easily lead to misconceptions, especially for somebody who hasn't experienced spiritual realities, to know, like, oh, okay, now I get what it's like, because that's
Right.
all we can really know. That's why Paul says knowledge will pass away when the reality comes, because it's beyond knowledge. Um, and what's interesting, I read this book recently. It's called The Darkness of God,
Hmm.
and it basically goes. It's like a survey of the language used in Christian mysticism, um, and uh, like around, so kind of over time, especially influenced by like the Romantic era. Um, we started kind of reinterpreting like mystical theology as experiential. So it's about having this experience of God.
Right.
So like the beatific vision is an experience, is kind of how we understand it. Um, but kind of prior to the early modern period, um, you don't really find experience being very important
Right.
in um, in like monastic literature. Experience is actually something that you need to transcend. The To receive the beatific vision, to receive something from God, that's spiritual in nature, is beyond experience, beyond knowledge, and so those things are kind of the scaffolding
Yeah.
where we kind of reach um, a vision of God. But ultimately, they need to be transcended to receive the reality itself. Um,
I forgot who said this quote, but I really, really liked it. It's not possible to hear the voice of the Lord on a full stomach. Um, there comes a certain point where what is it? There's a different one that was from one of the. It wasn't quite a martyr. I think the term is confessor, where you're not a martyr, but you have gone through things that other people would have been martyred for. Like this guy who survived Russian prisons during the Soviet Union. He
mhm.
commented and said the time that he spent in the Russian prison was the closest he's ever been to God, and it was the happiest he ever felt. In some ways, simply because um, your senses aren't dulled by the pleasures of the world, right? It's not that. Let's say it's very important that we don't ask for these sort of things to be given to us. I don't want to. I don't want to repeat. I forgot which of the disciples asked to be on like the left and right hand side of Christ, and he's like, "You don't want that, but you're going to drink from my cup anyway."
Mhm, mhm.
But at the same time, the I'm going to say there is an ascetic aspect to the Christian life. The Christian life is inherently a little bit ascetic because we have to overcome our fear of discomfort. We have to learn to live, and that is really hard and really, really, really sucks. I think you're aware of the concept of prelest, right?
Of what?
Prelest, prelest.
Not overly familiar. No, I mean
Okay,
I've read the word before,
I'm
basically.
trying to make the word much more common because it explains like 60% of American spirituality. Basically, the concept is how I think I'm going to be really butchering this. I am severely paraphrasing Saint Nikolai Velimirovich here, but the light. What was going to say? darkness doesn't, or say light doesn't really have a concept of darkness, because wherever light appears, darkness cannot exist, right? Light walks into a room, light is turned on, and all of a sudden the darkness is gone. So the more you glow, so to speak, the more the only sins that you can see are the ones within you. So the people who tend to be the most righteous destroy evil by walking in the room, right? I mean, look at the way that Christ handled demons, right? He just sort of walked in and they were immediately throwing themselves down. There's an effortlessness, but importantly, they're not necessarily able to see it, because the only brokenness, right, they can really see is their own. They see themselves as the greatest of sinners, like how Paul writes, and I think that that's directly tied to the concept of pride and humility, right? Pride is one of the most pernicious sins, because the microsecond you do anything right, you know, like I'm not even saying
Yep.
you're doing something right. Our righteousness are like what does it say? Our righteousness is like menstrual cloths before the Lord. Forgot the verse. But anyway,
Yeah, it's
like
in Jeremiah.
we do something that's like kind of selfless, right? And immediately we're thinking, wow, I'm so good for that. I am such a great person for doing my due diligence. And we completely shoot ourselves in the foot.
Right.
And so the concept of prelest is basically it's spiritual delusion that is brought about by thinking that you are more than you are. It's trying to pursue God without letting go of your pride. And you see it left and right. I'm probably gonna, I don't think I'm gonna offend anybody in the chat here necessarily, but the what's the term for speaking in the tongues of angels that some Pentecostal churches do? That
Oh yeah,
thing? That's
speaking
like
tongue, speaking in
that's like
tongues.
speaking tongues, right? That's like grade A pre-list.
Yeah,
It's like grade A, like the high quality stuff. Because
yeah,
it's seeking after this experience without desiring repentance. And
yeah.
it will lead you. I mean, like, I've heard people describe Buddhism who came out of it. It's that, right? It's and what I love about Christian mysticism, quote unquote, is that it's really simple. I mean, you chase it your whole life, and at the end, it's Christ crucified. Like there's no mystery, right? It's not Gnosticism. It's just like it's like a Mandelbrot. You zoom in far enough, and you find another Mandelbrot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's mystery, but it's not mystery in yeah, in a
Yeah.
Gnostic sense where there's nothing to grab hold of.
Was
But
it the
instead,
Greek word
it's like
mysterion? It doesn't quite translate to the word mystery the way we often understand it. The implication in English is that a mystery is something you're supposed to solve. Like, oh, this is a
yeah,
mystery. I need to find the solution. Well, the Greek word means something that's true, but it's large enough that you can't really understand it.
yeah.
But you can rely on it.
You can't contain it in your mind, but
Right.
it can fit. You know, it can fill your mind. And I think that's the distinction.
Yeah.
You know, with Gnosticism, it's there's no piece of it that you can grab hold of unless you're initiated.
Right.
Whereas within Christianity, it's these small truths that it's like uh, kind of like a bag, Mary Poppins bag. It looks
Right.
small, and then you go in and it's endless. Um,
And I love that too, that the Christian walk is inherently experiential in that your understanding of Christianity, your understanding of Christ is directly proportional to how much you have changed, not
mhm,
necessarily how much the things around you have, right? You can't know God unless you become a new person. Like
right. Yeah.
the
Uh, in the book of Hebrews, it says it describes the holiness without which no one can see God. So
right,
that the sight of God requires a change in yourself. You must
absolutely.
become holy so that you can see properly.
Mm-hmm. If your eyes are not opened, if your ears cannot hear, you will not hear. That's just how it is.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that does kind of come back around to the art and beauty thing,
oh yeah,
because that's also true. And I think this is kind of like an image of that higher reality, that there is change that needs to occur in a person to have the ability to see, uh, to essentially have taste, you know.
right.
Um, they're I mean, most art, um, you can, somebody who's not trained to, uh, be able to tell you why something's beautiful generally can, identify that something's beautiful. Beauty is something that uh, is apparent right off the bat.
Right.
But there's still like a depth that you can't see. You
Mm,
can't see the whole beauty of a thing unless you're trained to see it. And often you can't tell between, uh, something that's kind of like a kitsch knockoff of beauty and beauty itself if you don't have a trained eye. Um, and so I think that's kind of lost in our, because now even, ostensibly conservative or, traditionalist people will have often have a relativist view of art still and of beauty. Um, but if as goodness and truth are, they're attributes of God, and everything participates in those attributes that possesses them. The same is true of beauty, and therefore it's an objective thing. It's not just in the eye of the beholder. Um,
right.
and so there, uh, you do have to develop your taste in order to be able to distinguish, uh, cheap knockoffs of beauty from the real thing, and to be able to go deeper into the depths of beauty. Um, and ultimately, the goal is to ascend through uh, our our images of God's beauty, to be able to behold His own beauty, to behold
Right.
beauty itself. You know.
If beauty is because there's two sides to this, right? So if beauty is the capacity by which something images God, um, God Himself being the source of light and life and beauty. Um, what's nice about that is that you will see beauty increase as someone becomes more like Christ, but it also sort of gives me some hope because it means that I mean everybody, even if their eye is off, um, I mean even the most disgusting pagan cultures have some concept of beauty, just like it may be marred and like covered in a million layers or something, but like in theory you can look through it and you can be like, okay, there's a kernel of something there, right?
Hmm.
There's a tiny handle that you can kind of grab hold of and yank.
Hmm.
um Everybody, it was like Romans 1, right? Everybody has this in them somewhere. um and beauty doesn't always require words. I mean, I can go outside and I can appreciate a beautiful sunset, and I don't necessarily need any words to justify me doing that.
Hmm.
um it's intrinsic, it's part of the human experience, right?
Yeah.
um and so these two things that that's what I'm looking for, they're synchronized, right? Our pursuit of beauty leads us to Christ, and our pursuit of Christ leads us to beauty.
Right. Yep. Yeah. You can come to the uh, the thing that's caused through the cause, or you can come through the thing that's caused to the cause.
So what's the word I'm looking for? There's a synergy at play, right? There's a
Hmm.
synergy between these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I think one thing is, uh, I think we are in a drought, kind of a low point, largely because we've all kind of grown up with beauty being in the eye of the beholder, kind of just not even really, hardly even questioned. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think we are really in a drought of being able to even tell what is beautiful. Um, and part of that is also the internet culture and everybody having different tastes that's developed not in a social context, but just kind of from their own algorithm. Um,
Right.
but aside from even like developing a consensus, I think there's just losing that. objective conception has also influenced people don't know how to create something objectively beautiful because they don't even know where to find a standard for it.
Wow. If
And so
only
we
I knew someone who made a bunch of videos about that.
yeah, if only. But so I think because we don't have things to compare it to, I think that's just a big thing. And
Yeah.
So I think something that I think could be a white pill here, is that once the real thing comes, once people see the real thing, it is pretty apparent to anybody who doesn't have some who's not devoted to rejecting it.
Right.
They can pretty easily see what's slop in comparison to it.
So that's another thing too, is everybody kind of knows what is beautiful, a little bit. But there are people who tend to be very, very hostile towards beauty, oftentimes have reasons for being like that, right? I think you already talked about this in some of your videos, but I mean, I can't see when somebody says that they're trying to fight against the concept of objective beauty, or they're trying to defend something that's just transparently ugly. I can't help but feel like that's a compromised position, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to defend something they don't want to get rid of, and they're willing to throw beauty out the door, and they're trying to get other people on their side to sort of justify their own sin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think because it's one of the transcendentals. Generally, if you hate the good and the true, what's next to hate but the beautiful. I saw I saw this article. It was probably like 3 years ago or something, but it was saying that cuteness is fascist.
I see that every once in a while, which is so funny.
Yeah. But I mean, according
It
to their
literally is, though. Oxytocin does increase right wing sentiment in people. There are papers about this, so it literally
yeah.
is.
So is your profile picture like?
Oh boy,
Is that are you a racist and
it's my
anti-Semite?
giga fascist profile picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really funny because I don't know if it's the way I talk or the way I sort of present myself or my attitude online, but I'm definitely sort of a crypto giga giga right wing extremist because it's so funny, like especially with this comic taking off on Instagram. I'm thinking, like, if any of these people had any idea what I have publicly said and believe and am not ashamed of, they would panic. But that's in some ways that's enlightening to me, simply because I remember when I was on Twitter, you just constantly see people who are suffering and broken and sort of take it out on themselves in the form of politics. They'll act like something hung the moon, and then the moment they figure out that the person who made it doesn't always share the same um, theological or importantly political different, like they don't share the same sentiment, right?
Hmm.
They start acting like it's the worst thing on the planet,
Right.
because they have to, because
Hmm.
their heart is telling them this is good and beautiful, but they just the feeling they get as the chemicals in their minds sort of react with each other is disgust. And it might be at themselves, but they're redirecting it out. Um,
Yeah.
so in a way, me being sort of secret about a lot of these things lets me sort of see behind the veil. A lot of people I wouldn't interact with who are leaving really, really positive comments, and I'm like, um, I know you're still in there, man. I know you're still in there. I feel like, if you read The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis,
Yeah.
like the scene where, what was her name? She was talking to that one guy who had a ventriloquist dummy, and the dummy
Hmm.
was getting bigger while he was getting smaller, and the dummy was trying to get her to talk to the dummy, and she was trying to talk to the man, and he's like, I know you're still in there. I know you're there. That's what it feels like.
So you're calling them a bunch of dummies.
They're a bunch of dummies. They what is it? The fool says in his heart there is no God.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
no,
I
it's
I, I saw
yeah.
kind of the same thing. Just kind of uh, in quicker succession. But with my sharing the devlogs for my game, the first one I posted got a lot of views, and a bunch of people were commenting like, "Oh, this looks great," and then I'd see the same person comment like 5 minutes later, like, "Oh, I didn't know you were like this," because they watched another video. But yeah, there is kind of like this. People don't know what to do with themselves because I mean, it really has been true that nobody with good or at least decent, generally sane politics has been good at art for I don't know 100 years or I mean maybe less than that, but
Yeah.
it's pretty rare nowadays. I mean, generally, most people who are uh, on the right are neocons, and neocons are the kind of being conservative is primarily about GDP go up, um, and so
Man,
that view is fundamentally opposed to even comprehending what beauty is, and so of course
it's
it
actively anti-beauty.
right, and so of course that's hasn't produced anything of value in the artistic world, and so kind of from that, leftists just largely think that uh, people on the right just can't produce art, and that it's somehow tied to their uh, you know soullessness, because of course the only reason you would want every brown child in a cage, as they think we all believe, is because we just
Right.
have only negative feelings in our hearts toward others, and we have no empathy or compassion, um, and so of course we couldn't recognize beauty or produce it. So then when they see somebody who is basically an actual fascist, or close to it, uh, further right than the neocons, uh, producing something beautiful, it literally just doesn't compute, and they think maybe. I mean, I think they see it and think, oh, there's something left in this person that's entirely opposed to everything else about them.
Well, it's funny
But
because like I don't think I agree with neocons on anything. Like the more I think about it, the more I realize I'm not left wing, but like I don't agree with neocons on anything. It's so funny. In fact, literally, I was in Mexico on a work trip, and there was this dude who was with me. He's my age, who's sort of I think he's like communist sort of leaning. I don't know. He's not really strong politically. He's just sort of alt. And any comment he makes politically sound of kind of is like pseudo communist or whatever. I
yeah.
ended up getting along with him better than I did any of the neocon coworkers I have, just because he
Hmm.
was willing to talk about something that wasn't politics.
Hmm. Yep.
Like we could actually talk about art and have a great conversation.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I mean, even politically, I find myself sometimes agreeing with leftists on more isolated issues for entirely different reasons, but on more isolated issues than neocons sometimes.
well,
Uh,
the issue with them, I think, in a lot of ways, is that there is a type of person who disagrees with you because they see the world differently than you do. And then there's a type
mhm.
of person who disagrees with you because they see the world the exact same way that you do. They just want a different outcome.
Yeah,
Those are fundamentally different, right?
yeah,
Like I'm talking to a neocon. We are living in different realities, right?
hmm,
But oftentimes when I'm talking to someone, there will occasionally be like a left wing person, right, where we sort of understand the world the same way. We just want different things.
yeah,
And so because of that, on topics that have nothing to do with politics, because we kind of have a similar, I don't know, lens, I guess, in some ways, I can get along really well because they look at art the same way or music the same way I do, or things like that. We just kind of have a different goal in mind, and of course that becomes obvious with time. But
yeah. And
I don't
I
know.
mean, I think probably part of it too is like people in our generation, uh, the you know the people who are older neocons, they pretty much, it was true that you could just go to college and you'd get
Right.
offered a job, and then you'd be able to afford a house and have your 2.5 children and a dog. And you could achieve that if you worked hard, you know.
Yeah.
That's not at all the case for us. A lot of people have, they get degrees and then don't find a job even related to that degree. Um, and then, housing prices are so high. So we just have like that kind of like make money and retire mindset that's all about efficiency and maximizing the income. It just doesn't appeal to us because it's, we've kind of learned to uh, kind of find something else, enjoyable in life
Right.
because it seems so far off.
Kind of reminds me of just very side tangent, even though I think this is an incredibly great segue into the AI thing, for reasons I'll get into. I have a coworker. I won't like name drop or anything like that. Y'all would get along really well, I think. He's OPC.
Oh, okay.
So he's like Giga Reformed. He
Mm-hmm.
keeps like theology books on his desk at the office. So this guy, it's fun because we don't always get along. I am pretty sure I annoy him to death, in part just because our work styles are very different. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very sort of laissez-faire. I'll be like, it'll be fine. He's very, very security minded, and I stress him out. But what I will say, what's interesting is, our mutual boss, the guy right above us, is a little bit of a neocon, but more so, he's sort of more Gen X liberal, not like progressive necessarily, but like he is sort of a post World War II consensus view of the world. Harmony is his number one life goal. He's sort of like nominally Baptist because his wife is.
Baptist.
Sort of, quote unquote. I don't really know what he believes, but that's where he's sort of like. Anyway, so a coworker of ours went through a really, really terrible situation. I mean, really bad situation. I don't blame him for sort of crashing out. He's married, but he decided to transition at like age 35. And my boss was sort of terrified because he very quickly realized that neither me nor my coworker were going to refer to him by his preferred pronouns. And it's kind of nice to have another guy in the office. Like, we may not agree on everything, we may not get along, but like we have each other's backs when it comes to this. But it's crazy that like nominally this guy is sort of like my boss is sort of associated with me in a lot of ways, but in reality we are very, very different,
Mm-hmm.
like extremely different. And I think he's a little nervous actually. So I don't
Yeah.
know, just sort of a fun little tangent. But I see that's the thing, future controversies. I'm trying to say things in this podcast that are going to get me canceled someday. That's my goal.
All right. So the next topic will be the Jews.
Yes, absolutely. Let's go. No, okay. AI actually. This is the tangent I wanted to get into. This is actually potentially more controversial than that.
Okay.
But at least for me personally, given I'm going to say anyway. There is a particular streaming service I'm not going to mention that has a particular CEO that used to be mutuals with me on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And he, I'm going to say, famously, Christian media is an affront to God. I'm going to go so far to say it's evil in a lot of cases, just like
Yeah.
outright evil. But one thing I have noticed is that AI is totally one-shotted a lot of boomers and Gen Xers
Yeah.
simply because they feel like they can get it all. They feel like they can get the details they were looking for by not hiring artists without any of the effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely believe it's descended from the concept. A lot of neocon's approach to art descends from the idea that like giving money to something or someone that is not deserved is a net negative always. Where
Mm-hmm.
if it's like I am giving someone something they don't deserve, therefore their character will not grow. And I understand that mindset. There is a principle in that is not false. It is absolutely antithetical to creating generational wealth. It is antithetical to creating culture. It will literally eat them from the inside out. And part of that is just like they literally come up with new and creative ways to not pay artists. It's crazy. Like they're sitting there scheming. They've got a whiteboard and they're like, okay, how can we get as close to paying artists as humanly possible while not technically paying them? Like this guy mentioned, he was starting off a thing where he's like, what if I go to investors and I raise a ton of money, tens of thousands of dollars, that we then exchange for tokens and then give those tokens to AI artists so they can create culture. I'm like, just why are you filtering this through Claude? Like, if you want me to make you a TV show, I'll do it for like $1,000. Just like give me the money.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh my word.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. And
yeah, so
yeah,
I wasn't being very subtle, but my contract has expired, so I'm allowed to say these things.
Yeah, the thing about, making great Christian culture is like you gotta know how to do it, and you
Yeah.
gotta know what great culture is. And unfortunately, I don't think he's the man for it.
He's closer than a lot of other people are. And that's a very neutral statement. That's a very neutral statement.
There's a lot of people in the world. So,
oh my word. The incompetency is just like on another level. Not with him necessarily, but just with the industry in general. I mean, I'm actually convinced. Like, I don't think I can be unconvinced that a lot of radio Christian music is a humiliation ritual. I strongly believe. Actually, what's funny is this guy I mentioned would actually agree with me on this, that it is a humiliation ritual. It is specifically funded by music producers to defang Christianity. That's the purpose of the media. Is Christianity suffers more because it exists than if it didn't, and that's why it exists. I mean, I was getting, before I came to get on the show with you, I was eating a burrito, and there's some music playing, some CCM that was playing, and it just like hit me like a ton of bricks as I was listening to the music. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a veneration song for the person listening. They are venerating the person who is listening to the song. God exists. The purpose of God is to make me not feel bad about myself.
yeah.
And that was the main core theme of the song. This is, in fact, it would be more scandalous. It's scandalous because it mentions God, but it's a worship song for the listener. And I wish the Lord had not been invoked. That is the definition of using the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
well, it's definitely, yeah, I mean, there is definitely at least evidence.
There are exceptions to this.
Well, there is precedent in things that we found out, years after the fact, that, various evangelical movements were, entirely astroturfed.
Oh yeah.
By the CIA, different things like that.
I've read all about that.
And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, if, a lot of these changes that have happened since the 20th century, especially toward, associating Christianity with self-conscious females, is a psyop or something. But I mean, regardless, that is the kind of the trajectory mainstream Christian culture has gone in. It's at this point, it's entirely like self-help for self-conscious women.
Right. And what's sad is it's just making it worse. Like, self-conscious neurotic women are made worse because of this. Like, it's bad for them. This is junk food for the soul.
Yeah.
It's not good for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, and I think probably most of the people like actually making it, are just, being used by it. They're, produced in produced in factories, and then, which are the evangelical box churches.
A lot
That
of them
you know.
are failed country singers or like people who couldn't make it into the country industry. I know when I was much younger, I attended a what is it, like a missionary Christian Missionary Alliance church plant. The lead pastor had tried to become a Christian artist back in the day. So he went up to Nashville and he went through the whole process, came back like shell shocked, um, talking about the stuff he had seen. And
Mhm.
yeah, no, it's a lot of them are just like, I want to be a country singer. Well, you're not talented enough. Okay, well, I guess you can be a CCM artist. We'll pair you with a producer and kind of send you off.
Mhm. Well, a lot of the producers are also country producers,
Right.
which is
It's all
interesting.
Nashville. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, I mean it's basically. I mean, a lot of the record labels are just it's just the Christian subsidiary of a larger record label. So the people actually making the decisions are just what's gonna make the most money. And
Right.
so people are going to there's these Christian moms driving their kids to soccer practice, and they want to create uh, an uplifting spiritual environment for their kids to grow up in, and so they turn on their Christian radio station, and for them it's this religious act basically.
I mean, I
But it's
get that
being
urge. I feel bad
yeah,
for them
but
in a lot of ways.
right, but the problem is the person leading this what's essentially a religious ritual that they're engaging in daily is not, the way they're thinking about it is just what's going to make the most money. And
Right.
so the person leading this daily minivan worship is a particular different faith from Christianity.
The oiest of A's. The oiest
And
of A's.
so they ultimately they hate what Christianity stands for, um, and they're controlling what the average Christian mom puts on in their van, and thereby influencing how they think about God and about the religion. And yeah, it's ultimately just a religion about the self, and it comes back to that, like, mistaking spirituality for an experience.
Right.
um, and so they listen to it thinking that worship is when you get this tingly feeling in your belly.
Oh
um,
man. And the amount of kids who grow up in that sort of youth group ish environment that just immediately, like without a second thought, apostatize, because the thing they're looking for is in higher quantities elsewhere.
mhm.
You know? Oh man.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you can get the liver shivers at a concert, and it'll probably be better liver shivers because they got the lights just right, and
Right.
there's a much better sound engineer.
What you
um,
win somebody with is what you win them to.
yeah,
So,
but I think that's dying off.
oh yeah.
um, I mean, it's always been the case that those kinds of churches have just as many people constantly leaving the church as coming
Mm-hmm.
in. Um, and but I
The reason they
think
call them motion churches because people are motioning out the door.
it, and I think there's yeah a lot. It's largely now like an old person thing,
Yeah.
uh, because and they like it because they think it appeals to younger people.
Oh man, the old people are so afraid of death. I mean, just
Yeah.
like they don't want to think about it, they don't want to look at it. They will dress young, they will try to mimic the young, they will do anything that makes them feel young, because they are terrified of death.
Hmm.
And that kind of breaks my heart a little bit for them. I'm gonna be real with you, but it breaks my heart. Um, but no, it's good. I mean, maybe this comes naturally to me because I'm a Southerner, but Southerners think about death all the time, constantly. Like death is an old friend. Death knocks on the door occasionally and shows up for tea. Like death, death is everywhere. And so that actually might be unironically one of the reasons why I do believe there is a positive correlation between religiosity and cultures who, or even like specifically Christianity, and cultures that think about death a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what it is, but you need to come to terms with your own aging. Otherwise, you will keep systems around that should have been gone, or you'll do the opposite. You'll kill things that should have remained alive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you'll literally break the entire economy to make Herculean efforts in innovating new medical technology so you can stay alive for another 6 months. You'll import the entirety of the Philippines into the US just so you have like a healthcare class that's going to be completely pointless once you all die off anyway.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I, but I think just young people just see through. I mean, they see this old guy in skinny jeans uh, trying to use lingo he doesn't quite understand from a pulpit that looks like a TED talk, and it just looks ridiculous. And I think that's why I think traditional churches are a lot more well respected by younger people, because
Well,
it's
you know
like
what
it's genuine, you know.
you know what the lindiness principle is, right? I love this word. Another Paul
Yeah.
Scalise gem. All right, did you say Well,
Yeah.
okay, quickly for the audience who's watching. If there are other people left, how many people are there? I can't see.
There's 4 people, but people can
Sick.
watch it later. I'm sure
Sick.
millions will watch it later.
Oh, absolutely. Once we're both rich and famous.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept of lindiness is that the longer something has existed, the longer it will exist. There are
Mm-hmm.
certain ancient things that we literally cannot do now. Not because, we don't have the technology, but rather because it needed to have existed for a certain length of time for it to continue existing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know where to start with this, but it is true that if you want to know what will exist in the future, what's going to exist 500 years from now? Well, what
Mm-hmm.
has existed for 500 years that still exists? What
Mm-hmm.
has existed for 1,000 years, for 2,500 years? That's a really good indicator of what's going to continue to exist in the future. And I think people in the pursuit of being eternally young have neglected this. Like, if we throw
Mm-hmm.
everything out, then we're just going to die off.
Right.
If you want to survive, you have to attach yourself to something ancient. You have to attach yourself to something that's going to exist after you're gone. By the way, you're not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think there is
Great
this
chain of
kind of like
existence.
one example. His name is, I'm blanking on it. Taleb is his last name. But he wrote Anti-Fragile, and I think it's in
Yeah.
Anti-Fragile. He brings up the example of the tablet, just like as a design for reading, or just something that you hold in your hand and focus on. Like, basically that design just has never gone away.
Yeah.
Like, books are in that shape, and so
Ancient
it's like,
Phoenician like clay tablets.
right, yeah.
For spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are eternal. We have like 4,000-year-old spreadsheets.
Yeah, the writing came into existence not for poetry or for writing down sacred scriptures. It was for making spreadsheets.
Excel will outlive us all.
One thing is eternal, and it's Excel.
I love Microsoft Excel, but that is a tangent.
But yeah, and so whenever somebody criticizes me for liking Excel spreadsheet simulator games, where I just look at numbers go up or something, I should now just respond to them like, well, this is eternal. You'll pass away, I will pass away, but spreadsheets are eternal.
Well, doggone, I use spreadsheets for everything. I mean, I use to rearrange my house. I'll take the cells and I'll make them square shaped, and then I'll use the color tools to signify my floor plan, and then I'll literally rearrange things in Excel. I was using it the other day, not just for, I use it for finances. I use it for, I was calculating like the cost of this one tool at work. I really wanted to know. I was helping somebody else out with some stuff. I'll just pull Excel up. It's so nice. But arguably all programming is an extension of the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do all day, every day. Like I have not gone a day without programming, and I don't even know how long. Years, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well,
oh man.
Yeah. And video games are essentially spreadsheets made flesh, you know?
Yes, they are. They really are. Like, I'm not going to get into all the details, but I was telling, I'll admit there are a lot of things I do kind of on autopilot. Like, I've kind of got a way I like doing my comics. I've kind of got a way I like doing some things. So my friend John was asking me, he's like, hey, so what do you do to push yourself? Like, what is a task you engage yourself in to do things that are uncomfortable to you to sort of increase your cognitive capacity? And I said, I make video games occasionally. I could teach, this is so silly, but that most recent game I made on Game Boy Advance, I could teach a college course on the engineering behind that game, because it looks really simple, but the kind of math you have to do to get even simple scrolling top-down platformers to work is on old homebrew hardware it's just incredible. Like, there, I don't even want to get into it, but like it's all spreadsheets. It's all spreadsheets
Mm-hmm.
all the way down.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, like I've realized that as I'm like making systems for my game.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, here's another data table. It's just like all listing things and then making a list of how to access the different lists of things. It's just like lists upon lists.
Oh man. I'll get
So
into
yeah.
this. Okay, I'll just do this a little bit just to give you a taste, right? So there's no such thing as an object. There's no such thing as like nothing is implicit once you get into like embedded hardware. All you have are boxes you can put numbers in and then pull numbers out of. There's no map editor. There's no nothing. So if you have a two-dimensional space, well, your memory is one-dimensional. So how do you calculate where to place a block in two-dimensional space? You think, oh, well, I have an X and a Y coordinate. Okay, that's fine. How do I calculate collisions? Because the collisions are flat. Well, you have to use the modulus operator, and you literally calculate, okay, well, my map is a fixed like 64 by 64, which means that every row is 64 wide, which means that if I'm on the right side 2 down, that's box number 128. Okay, well, what do we do about like pixel perfect collisions? Oh, well, it's 16 pixels to each side of that, and I have to do some more math to sort of figure out what box I'd be colliding with. And I'm not even going to get into the fact that cameras exist. So you're not even calculating the real X and Y. You're calculating a simulated X and Y based on where your camera is. I mean, I tried to do this. I was walking somebody through my collision logic with a whiteboard, and their eyes glazed over after like 30 seconds. It's awesome.
Yeah, my eyes are starting to glaze over after that. So
I am so sorry. And that's the absolute tip of the iceberg. It's just like, I literally could probably teach a college course on this one game. I don't know. But
so what was, this is kind of at 2 hours asking you a follow-up question to the intro, but
right.
What kind of drove you to start developing specifically for the Game Boy?
This is going to sound really silly. I don't have any nostalgic attachment to the Game Boy Advance. I never had one growing up. I was a DS kid. My friend Andrew had a GBA, so I played it sometimes when I was at his house. But I'm not even kidding. Literally what got me in the door was just I could make a demo within 30 minutes of me starting. Like, I could put Hello World on the screen. There is a certain, you know what start to slime is, right? It's a measurement in video game terms for how long it takes for the game loop to really begin. I think it comes from Dragon Quest, where it's like, okay, what's the time difference between you turning on the console to you fighting your first slime? Well, when I start a project, I do a million calculations in my head as to whether or not I think I will be able to feasibly complete it, because I have a lot of incomplete projects. For
Mhm.
GBA, for me, it was like, okay, I can make a Hello World in an hour, and I've never touched this thing before. And I'm like, okay, so my next goal is I'm going to make a 5-minute demo in the next 2 weeks. And if I can't make a 5-minute demo in under 2 weeks, I'm going to move on. I made a 5-minute demo. Okay, great. I'm going to take 3 months and I'm going to make an hour of gameplay. Done. And I just kind of kept going on with this. And after 9 months, I had my first game. And honestly, at this point, it's just the syntax is familiar to me. So I don't have to relearn all the basics. I kind of already know what the syntax is like. I know how the hardware works. I know how to make it sing, all these things. And it's the perfect mixture of low specs. It's got 32 kilobytes of RAM. That's nothing. I mean, that's like your thermostat has literally 10,000 times more RAM than this does. There's nothing. You have to control every single byte. But even though I'm getting to do the fun stuff of like getting to understand how computers work and being really memory efficient, it can produce. It has a screen resolution that's just big enough. I can put what I want on the screen. The music is just high quality enough. I can make some songs I feel proud of. 16 megabytes is the limit, which is about big enough for me. Like that's about as much time as I want to be putting into a game, is filling up 16 megabytes worth of data. It's like the perfect console for me. The only problem is I associate it with like being covered with like crust in the back of like somebody's car. Like it's like it's a toy, right? I wish there was a home console. I mean, the Super Nintendo exists, but it's not quite the same. I wish there was a home console with the exact same specs as the GBA, that was a little bit more dignified. I would exclusively develop for that thing. But
Well, maybe that can be your next hardware endeavor.
no, there we go. I've daydreamed about this for years. So maybe someday. But no, that's the thing for me is I enjoy feeling like I'm mastering something. Like I don't want to feel like I'm just mastering somebody's engine, right? I want to understand how the hardware works, because that is somewhat universal. I can take what I learned from this and I can directly apply it at work. I can directly use it, like if I want to design a 3D printer microcontroller, if I want to build like a low power, whatever. I can take the principles I learned and use them there. That's big for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I feel like our brains work differently.
Nice.
Because like it sounds like you're more like analytical. Would that be like as
Well,
opposed to like maybe maybe like being more like intuitive?
that's actually a really tough thing to answer, because I see myself as being very intuitive. All of my rules I set for myself are completely arbitrary, and oftentimes I don't do strict measurements. So I'm very intuitive. I'm just extremely what's the word I'm looking for? Not even analytical, just like I'm constantly doing benefit analysis, benefit cost analysis on everything I do. Which is why this subject is so near and dear to my heart, because anything I've learned about beauty, I had to sort of force myself to learn. The hard way. I used to have a really big issue with, like, I wanted to make this one game that took place in a forest, but in order to do so, I had to model all of these trees, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I want to focus on the game. I want to get to the story that I'm really proud of. Why do I have to model all these trees? And then like a week later, I was going on a walk and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, well, the Lord made all these trees. You know, this doesn't seem like it's directly applicable to the gospel. Why did he take the time and effort to make all of these trees?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think about a lot. Is dare I say, am I preventing myself from learning? Am I developing myself from growing because I just don't want to do the minutia? That's my biggest issue with AI. Capstoning this entire thing is I use it sometimes. I use Claude quite a bit at work, actually, but I don't want to atrophy, because I don't want something else to steal the character growth I can gain from painting trees, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
I think
need to grow.
right, and that really is something. I've mentioned it. I mentioned it on the first stream I did a little bit. Um, but something pointed out uh, by John Ruskin and uh, William Morris, Thomas Carlyle, those English gentlemen. Um, uh, Carlyle influenced Marx, and William Morris was a Marxist.
Mm.
Um, but this is kind of one of those areas where like Marxist more correct than neocon. But this there's a value to labor beyond what it produces externally,
Right.
and that uh, it's essentially the other side of the coin of labor. It's not just like a happy accident that labor produces something in yourself, but it's actually half of the point of labor
Exactly.
is is what it does to you. You essentially when you work, when you're engaging in the process of meaningful work, you you're transforming. You're kind of working on yourself,
Right.
um, and in a way that like if you're just focusing on actually focusing your mind on yourself and trying to work on yourself, you can't accomplish in the same way. It's you have to be looking at something else and putting in the time and effort to create something worthwhile.
Mm.
That's actually how you work on yourself. And so uh, we really can't. We don't have people that are shaped uh, and given virtue. We're, as C.S. Lewis would say, men without chests, be- largely because of the conveniences of life, because we're constantly seeking maximum efficiency, because we don't see any value in process itself.
Right. No, absolutely. No, like why would we have work if it wasn't to make us more like Christ? What's the purpose of work? What was the purpose of any of this? If I mean,
Right.
if we're spending most of our lives doing this stuff. I spend 40 hours a week at the office, and heaven knows I spend more time than that working on my own personal creative stuff. That's all I do. I'm up till 2 in the morning doing this stuff. Um, I mean, what would be the point if I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, toil sucks. It is a cross. It is a cross that we bear. But even then, like I don't know, it's a blessing to be able to be crucified along in my own sort of humble little tiny way along with Christ.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I
it's
think.
all yeah, it's worth it if it gets me there. It's worth it if it gets me closer to him. If I could
Mhm.
see him more brightly, then literally anything is worth it.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's important to distinguish, like, uh, in the book of Genesis,
Right.
uh, Adam is given work to do
Mm-hmm.
prior to the fall, and then at the fall, he's cursed with uh, pain in
Hard
his
work.
labor. Yeah,
Bad toil.
with hard
Sucky
work,
work
with
with
toil.
thorns.
Um,
Yeah.
and it seems like uh, it seems almost as if uh, work in the modern day has like gotten almost like extracted the curse from work, and
Well, it's what is
and
it?
what we know as work is only is just directly straight up curse concentrate.
What is it? I went on a whole tangent about this with, a while ago with my brother, but there's this concept, I'm going to say like alchemy almost, of like you can't really, energy can't be created or destroyed, you just move it around. You know how
Hmm.
simple machines make something easy, but they're not making it less work. They're just pushing the work around so that it's shaped differently.
Hmm.
Every man is a farmer. Every man toils for his food. We're just under like 50 million layers of abstraction. And the
Hmm.
moment the abstraction fails to map reality or whatever the layer is directly below it, um, it quickly becomes evil, quickly becomes exploitative, quickly becomes a parody of what it is meant to map. And
Right.
that's why the financial everything is falling apart, because money is an abstraction of an abstraction of an abstraction. And the moment that it, like, I'm not going to go about fiat currency, but like that's the whole idea. Is an abstraction, if it fails to map what it's representing, then it is survived past its purpose, and it will be
Right.
replaced whether it wants to be or not. And the work we do, like the office cubicle work, it is a blessing in some ways, but I feel a little bit gross about the kind of stuff I do sometimes.
Mhm.
Because I'm an IT, not IT guy. I'm a software engineer who works for a call center, and I hate call centers. And I'm like, I'm doing a bunch of AI crap for them because it puts food on my table, right? It's how I pay
Mhm.
my mortgage. But in some ways, it would be much more wholesome if I were working out in the fields harvesting okra or something, you know?
Yeah. 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 There's there's a blessing in the division of labor. Uh, but yeah, like you mentioned, the I mean it's like signs and things signified.
Yeah,
Uh, the it's supposed to, like you said, map on to the layer below it.
right.
Um, and yeah, it loses its purpose once it no longer maps onto it. And there's we are dust, and to the dust will return. And the kind of the there's a there's a harmony in, or a synergy, to use your word,
Yeah.
in the relationship between man and the earth in the garden.
Mm,
And that theme is kind of subtly there throughout the rest of the Bible.
right,
The man is made from the dust, and then he's made the tiller of the dust. And
right,
when he tills the dust, it produces food for him to live. And so there's this reciprocal relationship that kind of defines our existence on the earth and our purpose. And once you completely abstract work and remove it entirely from that context, you no longer have a sense of your place in the world. You don't know where you're at.
right.
Um, and so I think that is it's just another aspect of kind of the feeling of displacement that people have. We no longer have even a connection to the ground we're standing on.
I think C.S. Lewis talked a little bit about that, where like he was really upset by the idea that the food we eat is not grown in the same soil that we walk on.
Yeah, that's
Oh my
that.
word, I cannot fathom what Tolkien and Lewis would like you drop them today in modern day England or the UK. England barely exists anymore. Oh my word. Like,
Yeah,
what do you
yeah,
mean?
that's
So the Shire's taken over. So the Shire's been taken over by Saruman, okay? And the hobbits like it? What are we doing here?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, the
Um,
hobbits only like it because they have they have a sword to their throats
yeah.
at all
And they
at
don't
all
like it
times.
anymore. They're starting to
Yeah.
not like it, but it's too late.
If they
Um,
ever say they don't like it, then they're destroyed.
yep.
Um, but yeah, that's one of my favorite. It's actually Lewis quoting Tolkien. So
Right.
it's only found in Lewis, but it's him quoting Tolkien. And yeah, that's
Awesome.
that's like one of my favorite quotes. I've written multiple essays that incorporated it, and I'm working on one that's basically using that as like the foundation. But yeah, that really is like such a kind of succinct description of like how most people thought of their relationship to the earth
Right.
until very recently. Uh, he talks about like we're made of the earth that we've lived on, um, and with the kind of with like universal international trade, and a universal diet, uh, where we get all of our food packaged and
Yeah.
delivered to us. We're no longer made up of the earth that we live on, and we're no longer in communities of people also made up of the same earth. And so it's essentially like our at least our symbolic world is no longer coherent to us. There's no unity to it.
My boss is from France, and he's lived in Long. Say I was going to drop my town, Longview. Okay, fine. It's on my. It was on my profile. I don't care. It's on my Kickstarter. You can know what town I work in. I don't care. Come at me. So basically, he's lived there longer than I've been alive. So he's talking to me, and he's like, well, I'm basically like more, of a native here than you are. And that rubs me the wrong way because my physical body is constructed out of this soil. Like my ancestors have been in this land long enough that like my bones, the minerals in my bones came out of this ground, right? Like, no, you got here 20 years ago. I've been here thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's the problem that kills me too is there is this ripe opportunity for ethnogenesis in the U.S. We were so close, man. We were so close. Just give it a little bit longer, and we would have had the same claim to this land that the English do to England, right? Because they've been in that land for about 1,000 years. And then, like, almost like, I don't know, we just got nuked. We just got, like, I don't want to get into it too much, but it's, man, just a couple more generations, just a couple hundred years, and it would have been indisputable that we are strictly native to this land. And I still consider myself that because, I mean, my parents' parents are buried here.
Mm-hmm.
So that chain is on its way to something, and then it got halted, and then they act upset at me for being upset about it.
Yeah.
How dare they? Anyway, I'm
Right.
sorry.
No, I mean
Got it.
it's valid, and yeah, I mean, there's no place on earth that somebody's been the natives living there. Basically the criteria for being a native is not how long you've been there, but that you've been there for a certain amount of time while having a darker skin tone. That's
Literally,
the
it's
only.
like the Ainu are the only indigenous people of Japan. Okay, well, where do the Japanese come from? Like where are they indigenous to? Now they're not indigenous to anywhere.
Right.
Okay, or like the Sami people, and like I don't know. I could get into this, but no, it's
Right.
they literally think we come from space or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
White people came from space to a fully black Earth
Yeah,
and stole
something
it
like
from
that.
them.
I don't know. It's kind of funny. But no, I'm so silly. It's just anti-civilizational. That's what it is. That's
Mm-hmm.
all I have to see it as.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
been like 2 hours and 15 minutes. On my word, this has been
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. It has been fun. We should do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
And also, what are the names of your games? Somebody asked, I think,
Oh,
like
okay.
40 minutes ago or something.
You're good. I am so sorry. I am so sorry, man. So I have a website you can go to. You see my name on the screen. It's Cinemint, CINEMINT .online. So you type in cinemint.online, and you'll be taken to my website. And that's where I collect a lot of stuff. In fact, this lovely background you see behind you is taken from that website. I
Stole
have a
it.
guest book. Please sign the guest book. And then at the top of the screen, I have a games button. You click the games button, and you're going to see all of the GBA games I've made that are public, and you can actually play them in your web browser. Alternatively, if you want to download them and put them into an emulator or something, you can go to my itch.io page, which is just, I think it's cinemint.itch.io. Just checked. That is correct. I have some animation software, by the way, that I also work on. That's free. And then all of my games you can download, and you can put them on, EverDrive or something, or play them in an emulator. You can, because they're GBA games, you can play them on anything. You can put them on your thermostat. They will work on literally anything. So
All right.
that's that.
Well, this has been the one and only Cinnamont.
Womp womp.
Thank you for listening. our 4 concurrent viewers. You are all the true fans, and
Bless you all.
stay safe, pursue Christ, and
Amen.
have a good night.
Peace.
All right, the stream is ended. I guess
All right.
we had